ever been reading a celebrity pastor's blog post or listening to a famous Bible teacher and something jumps out to you and you're just like, how am I the only person seeing this thing? Why isn't anyone talking about it? Well, you're not alone. Welcome to Underdog Theology. This podcast is about looking at what's happening in evangelicalism. I'm talking tweets, I'm talking books, blogs, videos, all of it, and judging it according to Scripture. Whether that's reacting to celebrity pastors, teasing about the latest ridiculous battle in the culture war, or just having a little bit of fun together, this show is for all the folks who feel like they're on the outside looking in, who feel like they don't have a voice, who feel like they're an underdog. Welcome to Underdog Theology. What's going on, everybody? I hope your Monday is going great. I hope you get to just have the time of your life. Doing whatever you want, you know? I'm not your boss. You don't have to be here. You chose to be here. And, whatever you want to do on your Monday, that's up to you. I just hope that you're having fun while you do it. What's up? It's been a while, Internet. I don't know how to run an Internet show anymore. I just don't know what I'm doing. Literally trying to throw graphics together. I realize I don't even have, as I switch platforms again, realize I don't even have a reaction shot, like have the video that we're going to be watching, the whole point of this show. I didn't have a scene for that until about 3 minutes ago. So, it is what it is. We're just going to smoothly get back into things, and, it might be a little slow. It might be, actually maybe not so smooth. It might be pretty bumpy today. But you know what? We're going to have fun while we're hanging out. You know why? Because we got the underdogs! That's right. We got the underdogs. You guys are here. Welcome to my studio. Oh, what's going on? Is Dean has a different studio? No, I don't. It's green, but you know what? It's fun. We're going to have some fun with the green screen stuff. I've got something I'm going to try later. All right. You guys wanted a certain segment back, and it's coming back, but we're doing it live, and it could go terribly wrong. Mostly because I thought I would have way more time this morning to focus on this stuff, and I was not able to. So, things, it just takes your time. So how you guys been? How are you doing? All right? You doing all right, Internet? You guys having fun? You guys doing your thing? We got Heidi saying we are back, hopping in the chat. There's a bunny. I always immediately read. I don't know about you guys, but when I look at emojis, I just read it as what it is. I'm just like, bunny in the chat. What does that even mean? Oh, hopping in the chat. I get you. I'm old. The show, Who's the Boss? Who's the boss? Who's the boss of the show? I don't know. Here at Hellfire Studios, what do we are? It's Hellfire Network, Underdog Studio. It's equal opportunity here. Everyone is a boss. Every single one of you is a boss, as long as you hit the like button. And if you don't, then that's how you know you're not a boss. That means like you barely got in, right? Someone hit the dislike button. I'm sorry. I'm just saying, if you hit the dislike button, you got fired. That's what it is. You're fired. And then they hit it. No, that's so funny. That was Johnny Appleseed, wasn't it? At least it has a skull in the background. It has a couple skulls. I need to work in a skull, very subtle skull design to the wall. I've been having a lot of fun with this kind of stuff. This is what I've been doing, guys. Not content. Who cares about content, right? It's all about you can make your own little thing with green screen stuff. I don't know why. Green screen's been around forever, but just the last year, I've been I found it. And I can do things with it. So here's what we're going to do today. We're going to goof off. We're going to hang out in the chat for a little bit, and then we're going to talk about some serious stuff, okay? There's some stuff that happened. And a certain seminary president that just what is what is going on in the world? Anyone else feel like this? Like I'm up here in Canada, which I totally forgot. I wanted to have like just a Canadian flag waving and like have a button that I could push when I start talking about politics. And I could just be like, just so you know, I'm up here in Canada. So I get it, for all the people that are just like, well, you don't have to deal with it. Well, I dealt with it for a long time. And now I don't necessarily have to deal with it in the same way. But that doesn't mean my opinions don't matter. All right. My opinions matter as much as anyone else. And some people think my opinion matters way more than it actually does. Certain YouTubers. We had some interesting times during the break. If you're like, why hasn't he streamed in a while? Mostly because I just get annoyed. And I just wander away. But you know what? It's all right, though, because you guys are here. We don't have to care about the other YouTubers. We don't have to care about the guys who are making all kinds of big monies off of a certain emotion. Is it an emotion? It's kind of an emotion. It's more of like a behavior with the month of June and the rainbows. You know what I'm talking about? There are YouTubers who are making money off of that. But anyways, we're here not for them. We're here for each other. I'm making sure. Okay, that is just that. All right. Sometimes I get scared when I get a text. All right. Anyone else get that way when you get a phone call? You're just like, why is anyone calling me? Don't call me. Like, especially when it's not like some outrageously long number that you can immediately be like, you know what? This is definitely going to be like some spam call. When it's like an actual number from your area code and you're like, who is this? Why are they calling me? That's what I get like. Let's see. We got everyone. We got everyone hopping in. It's good to see all you guys. Johnny Appleseed being like, underdogs. And Carol likes the background. Appreciate Carol. And Pam says, hi, Heidi. Great to be back. And another rabbit. It's supposed to be dogs. It was a TV with Tony Danza. Oh, you're talking about the Tony Danza show. I remember that. Come on. Nick at Night. All right. Whitney says, I hit it like a boss. Why do I do that voice? I still don't know. I will never find out why. It'll be a great mystery. You're not fired, Dean, just being goofy. Pretty much. Story of my life. Aaron says, when they decorated our car at our wedding, there was a kid who got a hold of a paint marker and just wrote not a boss. Wow. That's pretty mean, actually. Like, what does that even mean? You're going to wonder about that one for the rest of your life, man. Like, what? Did he see something that I don't see? What's going on? Skeletal Remains says, not that I'm biased. I'm assuming that's about the skeletons. Johnny says, Dean, what is an emotion? I'm a man. I don't have those. That's right. That's right. You don't. Keep it that way. All right, Johnny, you keep it that way. Take those emotions and you just give them to the women. All right. We know they have too many already, but here, have some more emotions. I'm sorry. Pam says, many things are frustrating on the interwebs these days, but I do think being able to talk about it is super helpful and clarifying in a confusing Christendom. Don't use that word anymore. I'm tired of Christendom. All right. All these people who are like, this is Christendom. All right. Like, is it medieval times? Are we going to the Renaissance fair? What's going on with this thing? It's just Christianity. All right. Like these guys, the Doug Wilson fanboys, they love to use Christendom. And it's just like, come on, guy. Like, you haven't read a book. Like, just stop pretending. So many of these guys, they're like, oh, they use the fancy words and terminology that they watched on a video. It's like, when was the last time you cracked open a book? All right, that's what I want to know. That's we got. What is this? Was it Spanish, Latin? I don't know. Carol says, I wish we all could do a Zoom. Someday. All right, Stephanie's here. What's up? You mean the ones who elevate an orientation to the penultimate sin that is going to destroy Western civilization for clickety clickbaits? Yeah, and views. Yes, but also merch. I'll throw it under the bus. I don't care anymore, YouTube. You hear me? Just going full Home Alone. Dean's been sitting, pouting in a dark corner for too long. And so I'm ready to just be like, whatever. I don't care, YouTubers. That K-Dub True guy selling merch and tweeting about, I have a bunch of YouTubers in a list, and like every blue moon, I'll go and I'll check that list. And so I saw the tweet, and he's selling shirts about repentance with rainbow colors, and it's like, everyone should buy one of these shirts for Pride Month. What is this? Why are we trying to make money off of sin? All right, like, at least this that's where I'm coming from. A lot of you guys know I'm far more conservative than conservative people think. All right. But like, I think it is sin. I think all that is sin. All right. So for me, like, and even for them, we would agree on that part, but they are making money off of it. Like, and he's not the only one. There are tons of these guys. And part of it is like the clickbaitiness of throwing all these videos out on, this month, and just like really focusing on that thing. It's like, why are you focusing on that thing? Because, people will click. That's also like the grift. The grift of Christian YouTube is strong. All right. These guys, no thanks. Don't want to be a part of that. All right. This is not supposed to be just me railing about Christian YouTube, but it's just disgusting. Also sad. Also, like, grow up a little bit. Like, all right, let's keep on hanging out with people before I just get mean. Let's see. Bottle those emotions, says Tim. Yeah, you keep them real deep down there, and if you feel them coming out, like, one, see a doctor. Two, also just like, I don't know, go swing a hammer. Swing a hammer for a little bit, and probably those emotions will go away. And especially like if you just like hit your thumb with a hammer, if you have to, if those emotions just won't go away, and you're like, John MacArthur told me PTSD isn't real, like, just use that hammer. All right. I use Christendom ironically. I know you did, Pam. I'm just talking about like all the other people who are just like, Christendom. When do you get so fancy? Like, come on, man. Like, you didn't even know who Justin Peters was like 5 months ago. What are you talking about? Christendom. Name an apostle. Any of them not named Peter or Paul or John. Judas. All right. Matthew says, wish I lived in Canada these months. I'm just saying there's some benefits. There are lots of benefits, actually. I love it up here. But, it's just also just like, November is coming. Everybody run. We'll talk about it. Did you say merch, Wendy? Yeah, they're selling stuff. They're selling all their things. And it makes me go like, I don't want to sell anything ever. Johnny says, as a German, I'm so annoyed if someone refers to Europe as Christendom. You guys never go to church, but now when all the leftists and Islamists show, all of a sudden you care. Pretty much. That's how it rolls, man. And Whitney, I agree. It's sad. Philip, who's a bear? It's sad to see people exploiting their Christian brothers and sisters for money. Agreed. And I know some people would be like, well, you put out Mohler in the thumbnail. One, there's a certain way that YouTube has to work so that anyone who, even if you like me, YouTube might not even show you stuff unless I have someone who's more famous than me in the thumbnail. But also, like, because we could talk about these things. Also, I'm not making any money off of this. This is my hobby. So, whatever. John MacArthur hasn't been there in weeks, and they weren't saying anything. Yeah, you posted that earlier too. How weird for Grace Community Church. Like, they just like, John MacArthur has always been a guy, like, if a pastor doesn't preach, he's not a pastor. Well, what do you call a pastor who doesn't preach because he's old? Retired, maybe? Like, maybe not pastor? But yeah, it's just like he's probably just resting, like, because he's old. Like, but they're all like, we can't talk about it. Don't gossip about it. He's just gone for 6 months. But everything is fine. See, we took a picture. He's at a mountain somewhere. Isn't that nice? You guys remember that last year? All right. Let's see. We're just goofing off. 46 people watching right now. 17 likes. I'm not talking about anything about Mohler until we get 25 likes. That's right. We're going to sit here and chill. I might even talk about movies until you get up to 25 likes. And that's when everyone starts leaving. Big fancy words, fancy studios, fancy clothes, but not a lot of truth going on sometimes. There's a lot of money to be had, but is there really any education that's happening? That's what I wonder. Wendy says, but I need an underdog baseball cap someday. Someday I'll get it out there. It's actually ready. I just haven't done anything. He's an old man. He's 20 years older than me. Yeah, he's old. You know, it's fine to be old, right? Like, it's absolutely fine. Just say you're resting and he's older and can't speak as much. Don't just be like, don't talk about it. Stop gossiping about it. We know he's just chilling at home. The Claymore. It's unhealthy for a church to have the same pastor minister for ages. I don't think it's necessarily unhealthy, but I could see, like, especially when it comes to these people, like when it comes to like these celebrity types, yeah, I can see how it gets there, because it becomes like inevitably, like maybe even like 25 years ago, I'm sure it was, but like 25 years ago, it might not have been as prominent as like all these, MacArthur fanboys, because, at the early years, you remember the hard times and the bad decisions that somebody made, right? And then, like, when it's 40 years in, like, people forgot about that, because most likely that senior leader has already run off everyone who's been in opposition toward him, right? Like, so anyone who's been brought in relatively, like, over the last, like, I don't know, like 2 decades, are probably people that he handpicked to work with him, to work well with him, not to be like someone who would be like actual accountability for him. So, skeletal remains. BRB, logging into my alts. Go for it. No, not movies. Yeah. Will you talk about The Chosen, Dean? Will you talk about The Chosen? What? How they are like so shady for all their weird stuff with Angel Studios, and how they couldn't even get their premiere out because they're so shady, and no one wants to talk about how shady they are, right? Get him. Tim, I watched BTTF 1 and 2 this weekend. It's on YouTube for free at the moment. I don't know what that is. I probably do, but I don't. Everyone is always like, acronym. I don't know. Shanley. Hey, now I like talking about movies. Sweet. Let's do that. We have over 25 likes, even though there's more people hanging out now. There's 58 of you, and it's still only 25 likes. I guess I'll get to like the actual show. Fine, YouTube, you win. I'll actually do something and talk about some actual content. All right. I'm not mad about it. I'm just having fun. This is me aggressively having fun. All right, let's get serious though. No fun. Let's take that fun, chuck it out the window. We don't need that fun around here. We need to talk about stuff. All right. Let's talk about this guy right here. Oh yeah, it's green screen. Oh yeah, this part is cut off for some reason. I didn't do it properly. All right. Let's talk about Al Mohler. We've talked about him before, just even on the last episode of Underdog Theology, which I think was 16 years ago. We talked about the money. We talked about the money that Al Mohler makes from all these different things with the briefing and thinking publicly or public thinking. I don't know. It's a bad title, but like, he's got that show. He makes a lot of money doing speaking at different events, writing books, all of this being funneled through Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. And part of that is also with the briefing. Now, I wasn't surprised to see Al Mohler kind of defend Donald Trump. I don't know who needs to be told this, but Donald Trump has been convicted of 34 counts. He's been found guilty of 34 counts of criminal action. Not misdemeanors. It's like legit stuff. But he decided to come out and defend Donald Trump, which of course is kind of awful, like at this point, because we're dealing with a case where, again, I don't want to be like the guy who's like, has like, I don't know. I almost did it. Almost made fun. All right. I don't want to like bring up all the bunch of different topics that people can't watch with their kids around and stuff like that. But you guys all know what he's been convicted of. We know it's everywhere. It's on the news everywhere. You would think that Christians, we would probably be like, yeah, let's not defend this guy. Even if you want to think about things a little bit more critically as far as like what Christians should do with the knowledge that has now been found, there's a certain way to talk about it. And Al Mohler just went way beyond what I thought he would do. Like again, I wasn't surprised that he came out and defended Trump and seemed to be promoting Christians rallying around Trump. Like it's not surprising given what he said over the last like year and a half. Definitely surprising if you look at video from him like 6 years ago, where he said, I think at John MacArthur's church, it was on the stage at Shepherd's Conference, that, he was basically never Trump. And obviously that changed. But, like it's one thing to support a guy and be like, well, look, he ended certain legislation, words I shouldn't say for YouTube, at least that's what people tell me. Do I care anymore? Nope. That he ended abortion. And like with getting all the justices in there, like you could go that route and say it's worth it. It's worth, all the other junk that this guy does because he did these things. That's one route that people can go. And I disagree with that route. I disagree with defending or saying that something is worth, like when you're starting to get into the realm where you're taking morality and you're kind of weighing it and saying like, oh, which is the better of two evils? Like, I don't think that's what the Bible calls for. Like there's nothing in the Word of God that talks about Christians like requiring them to be involved in government, requiring them to be involved in legislation, and even something as simple as voting. There's nothing in the Bible that requires Christians to do that. What the Bible does require is personal holiness and standing up for righteousness. And that is something that the Bible is very clear about us as Christians promoting righteousness, promoting a worldview that's biblical. And that's one of the things that Al Mohler prides himself on, that we want to think biblically and Christianly, which he always says. And I always go, what does that even mean at this point, especially? Like, what are you talking about Christianly? When is that a word? First off, you're a president of a seminary. But also just like, what is it? Like, I think it doesn't have any meaning at this point anymore. But he wants to pride himself on being someone who thinks biblically. But there's no Bible here. This is all just speculation and just kind of people fumbling in the dark, trying to guess what a Christian should do when it comes to these things. Let's watch this or listen to it, because weird thing. He has a camera. He puts all his stuff on Instagram, like his videos, and it looks pretty decent. He's got a cool set. You saw it in the thumbnail. I actually really dig the set. But for some reason, he just puts the audio on YouTube. I don't know. If you got the stuff and you're paying people to do it, because we all know Al Mohler isn't the one sitting there pushing the buttons for the microphone and doing all that stuff. But let's just listen to it, I guess, and let's see what he has to say for himself.
who are trying to think as Christians biblically about this, it's one thing to see the political manipulation. It's one thing to see the media manipulation, and those things need to be called out. But we also just have to look at this in moral terms. And, legally, one of the confusing issues, the mainstream media kept talking about this as the Trump hush money trial. So hush money is money that is paid to someone to shut them up, to make them hush. And the interesting thing here is that
which Southern Baptists know all about.
No one is arguing that that money wasn't paid, and that it wasn't paid directly or indirectly, as is alleged, to a porn actress. And there is no doubt, at least according to photographic evidence, that Stormy Daniels and Donald Trump were in a room in public, photographed. Whether or not there was more to it, I don't know.
We got commercials. Thanks.
This is Pod
Isn't
for Ultra.
monetization from Christian
It's
accounts
not a
great?
bed, it's a revolution in the sleep game. Crafted for those who demand.
And frankly, that became an issue of consideration in the trial because the judge allowed some of that testimony to go forward in a way that actually wasn't necessarily germane to the case at all. But as Christians, we need to recognize that if you are in a position where you're acknowledging you paid hush money, well, you're in a morally dubious situation. But this isn't a shocking situation when
I'm going to clip that out. You're in a morally dubious situation. Really?
to Donald Trump. You go back to 2016, the Access Hollywood tape. You go back to how he presented himself when he was just, if you can say just, a major New York celebrity, a television star. You go back to the lifestyle, including the casinos and so many other things that were pretty flagrantly sexualized. You look at this and you realize we are unsurprised when it comes to Donald Trump and this kind of allegation against him. That just needs to be honestly said. And that means that for Christians, the hush money issue here, in moral terms, is a more foundational issue than it was or could have been in this trial, because we are talking about underlying behavior that is alleged to have been grossly immoral. And it's something that clearly violates God's law, God's commandment, God's purpose for sexuality, the sanctity of marriage. You can just go down the list. Now, at this point, it doesn't work to make the argument, well, other presidents have done the same. But it does work in one sense to make the argument that the American people aren't as surprised by some of this, given previous presidential behavior, than might have been the case. We understand as Christians, you can't make the argument, if he did it, well, this person can do it too. But you can observe the fact that over time, Americans become less and less concerned about some of these issues. And the explanation is there are other issues that have arisen that take preeminence. And so I think it's...
What you just heard there is the president of a Southern Baptist Seminary saying that some evils are better than others. Like he's trying to say that he's not saying that. Like I get it. Like he's trying to be like, hey, like it's not a good thing for Christians to debate, just like because that one person, he's talking about Bill Clinton, like because Bill Clinton did what he did, that it's okay that Donald Trump does what he does. Like he's saying that he doesn't agree with that he's not promoting that kind of argumentation. But you have to realize, just look around. Christians or, conservatives in America, they don't care as much about this as they used to. And there are other things that have taken, the front stage, that these are the things that we actually need to be concerned about. Why are we giving up? Like, this is always my thing with these people who are just like, oh, it has to be Donald Trump, or it has to be, like this person. Let's say it's not even just Donald Trump, just other politicians or just a party. And you're saying like it has to be that because they're the ones who will do the most good and we don't have any other options. What? Like, look around. There's so many people. Like, there's so many different opportunities for different people to stand up and be able to actually have an effect and to do something. And especially right now, like the Republican Party can do something about it. Now, will there be a large percentage of people who will be ticked? Yes, but that might be their own dang fault. like for having just played with this thing the entire time, and just let it, like, this isn't, like, he's trying to say this is nothing new with Donald Trump. Like, we know about these things, so we're not surprised. So we have to just think critically. It doesn't matter about being surprised. It matters about morality. Like, you don't have to. Evangelicals don't have to have a candidate. You don't actually, like, I know, like, I'm the liberal up here in Canada, but you don't have to vote. You don't have to. There's nothing in the Bible that says you have to. There's nothing that, when you look through God's word and say, like, and think about like how you can live as an American citizen, there's nothing you have to do with your, like, politics. You just don't have to. You don't have to play that game, especially when we are called to be people who are holy, who are different, who are unique because of the good works that we do, not for the bad works that we support. Al Mohler is making an argument that we can support someone who does bad works so that we can achieve good ends. One, all right, just because it worked once. And, like, let's be fair, it did work. All right, abortion took a huge hit because of Trump. So it did work in some way, but was it worth it? That's something that I think Christians just don't think about. Like, you should not support someone who is caught up in this kind of sin and make it seem like all Christians should agree about this. That's one thing I get onto. Like, if you want to make that argument and you want to be a person just on your own, say, like, this is what we're going to do. Okay. Well, this is Al Mohler speaking as a statesman for the SBC, speaking as a president of the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, and he's covering up for sin like it's a sin. What Donald Trump did with Stormy Daniels is obviously a sin. Covering it up is a sin. And even it's illegal. And he's just like, we got more important things that we have to deal with. And Christians are going to have to make hard decisions. Why? Why do Christians have to make any decisions about this? Is that something that we see Jesus talking about? All right, well, give unto Caesar that which is Caesar. That's talking about taxes, bro. Like, yeah, do your taxes, sure. Like, do what you got to do to live in union with the government, as far as, like, not going to prison. Sure. Don't pull a Donald Trump. But sure. Like, do that. But you don't have to make that hard decision. You don't have to sear your conscience like Al Mohler is promoting. That's what he's doing. He's saying, like, these are, like, this is what we have to deal with. These are the cards we've been dealt. One, you dealt your own dang cards because a lot of people just voted for him anyways, because a lot of people just didn't even think through the issues, didn't think through the consequences, didn't think through later this might actually become even worse, which it has. So, like, don't act like people are innocent, conservatives are innocent, and, like, this thing is happening to us. Again, he's saying you're not surprised about Donald Trump and, like, what he's done and, like, being convicted and all this stuff. Like, you're not surprised. So I'm not going to, like, act like, oh, you're so shocked and now you've been backed into a corner and now you got to swing. No, you don't have to. First off, you could just sit in the corner. Maybe put your face in the corner. But, like, you could just sit in the corner and just hang out there for a while and just deal with the consequences, and you don't have to swing at all. Like, it's not like we give up and say, like, oh, we're not going to do anything. We aren't going to promote any other kind of social righteousness in other ways. There are plenty of ways you could do it without promoting a president who paid off an adult film star and, to cover up things for his election so he could win. But I don't know, just silly man up here in Canada.
To say that if you go back to the 1980s or the 1990s, not to mention the 1930s or the 1960s, it's virtually impossible to imagine conservative Christians voting for someone like Donald Trump. And yet they did in 2016. Overwhelmingly, they did again in 2020. And I think it's probably safe to say they will do again in 2024. And there are a lot of reasons that are likely playing a role behind this. But one of them, perhaps the main issue here, is that Donald Trump has simply said enough of the nonsense when it comes to our government. And when it comes to much of the nonsense, these are issues in which conservative Christians are also very, very...
Enough of the nonsense of things that are actually making it so I'll probably have to face some prison time or hefty fines or whatever the consequences for these guilty verdicts, 34 guilty verdicts. Like, sure, I could see why someone would be like, I don't like the government.
concerned. When it came to the sanctity of human life, Donald Trump in 2016 said he would appoint justices to the United States Supreme Court who would read the Constitution in terms of a strict construction or an original intent, an originalist understanding that would lead to an understanding that there is no way that abortion is a guaranteed constitutional right. He said he would do it, and he did. 3 justices of the Supreme Court, very crucial in the 2022 reversal of abortion, reversal of Roe v. Wade in the Dobbs decision. And you're looking at other issues in terms of executive orders on issues of sexuality and many dimensions of religious liberty. And you look at the threats that conservative Christians understand in the culture around us. When we have a government that is increasingly threatening to tell our sons that they can be girls and our daughters that they can be boys, well, in this kind of situation, the political rules are off. Now, many people on the evangelical left say,
the political rules are off. What about the moral rules? President of a seminary? Is this like, do I have the crazy pills thing? I don't think I have it. I'll just use this.
No! It's just dumb.
It's so foolish for someone who is a theologian to just be like, well, politics. Nobody cares about your politics. All right? Like, I know you're influential in the Southern Baptist Convention, okay? So, like, there are people who do care about your politics within the Southern Baptist Convention. But this guy, like, why, like a couple of weeks ago, talking about, like, the minimum wage in California. What? You're in Louisville, Kentucky, bro. You're a theologian. You have no experience in politics. So, like, okay, you're smart. Cool. Lots of smart people don't have any experience in politics. Like, the fact that he's like, oh, it's a game of politics. Let me talk about this on my podcast. This is 100% like, if you guys have seen like the SNL bit of the sketch, that's what they like to call it, but the SNL sketch of like the podcast studio for white guys. Like, and I get it. I have a like I'm doing a podcast right now. Like, I understand like the hypocrisy of it a little bit. But just the fact that you feel so compelled to get your thoughts out there on this thing that you don't have any experience with, and you're acting as if you're like this authority, when the real authority that you do have, you're shrugging aside because you just want to talk about politics. Like, you're taking, like, you know, the word of God, you know what it says, and you're just like shrugging it off so that you can just be like, well, you know, it's the lesser of two evils here. So we should do this thing. How about we don't pick any of the evils? Like, why do we have to do that? Like, there's nothing here that is like, there's no gun pointed to anyone's head saying like, you got to pick. And if you don't, your family's going to get it. Like, he's trying to say that like with like the gender stuff and trying to be like, oh, this is where we're at right now. So we just got to deal with it. Why couldn't they have picked someone else? They could still pick someone else. All these conservatives, if they really care about politics, if they really care about all this stuff, they should be writing their Republican congressmen, senators, trying to get governors, trying to get everyone at the convention to actually do something. Like, at the convention, like when they nominate, it's like, what is it, like July 11th, or is that the conviction day, whatever, when they give like the actual consequences for this stuff. But it's pretty quick. It's like in a month and a half or something like that. They have like the Republican caucus. What caucus? Convention? I don't know. Whatever. But Like they could decide something. They could do something, and they don't have to put out Donald Trump as their candidate. No one is forcing that. All right. But these evangelicals, they don't want to do that. Why not? Like, you want to talk about making the hard decisions. Like, make the hard decision and call your, Republican senator, congressman, governor, talk to them about getting someone else in there. Like, it could happen if enough conservatives, if enough evangelicals got together and actually did something about it. That's a pretty strong grip that they have on politics. So it's just, nope, they don't want to do that. Let's keep on listening. Yeah, I have to press the button.
Well, that's illegitimate. That's just making a political deal. Well, politics is making a deal. And we need to be very honest about it. And we need to understand that this is a very difficult political moment for conservative Christians in this country. But here's the thing. The conviction of Donald Trump in this Manhattan courtroom isn't fundamentally, in moral terms, a game changer. For conservative evangelical Christians who feel deeply about issues of religious liberty and of the integrity of marriage, of resistance to the gender and sexual revolution, to push back against the administrative state and the understanding that the federal government wants to basically intrude upon our lives, take over the role, and take the responsibilities and rights of parents in so many cases. When you're looking at issue after issue, we are really in a very difficult position, particularly when there are character issues everywhere you look. And so we have to say that not only are there character issues with Donald Trump, which simply are unprecedented and so large, honestly, they're hard to describe. We're also looking at character issues with the current.
That's another thing in this 20-minute long thing that he has. He never actually talks about the sin of Donald Trump. Like, he just says, "Oh, there's flaws." And it's even hard to describe. You're a pretty articulate guy, Al. Maybe try. maybe just, give it a shot and see if you can actually say what you think about Donald Trump. These guys, they're such cowards. All right. And it's not just Al Mohler. It's so many of these guys all across the board. They want to take their shots at people and then hide what they actually think about some things. They want to go at Joe Biden, which he will in just a second. But they don't want to talk, the other side of Donald Trump and be like, well, I don't agree with him on this, or this. They'll just say there are issues because everyone knows that there are issues. It's the weakest thing you could do.
President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Most people have no
another
clue that
ad.
in 2023, the best
More
way
monetization
to make money on
for
Amazon is not with physical products.
Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, which
And
pays
there is
Al,
simply
I don't
no
know how
way
much.
to say on the one hand, well, they're exactly the same thing. Obviously, they're not. But it's also impossible, I think, to make the argument with any moral credibility that somehow Joe Biden is the morally superior candidate. Not when you look at the effect of his policies, not when you look at the intentional confusion on the gender and sexuality issues, not when you look at his ruthlessness now in basically being a doddering tool of the ideological left to push that agenda and to make promises he would do the same, to become now a champion of abortion when he said he had been for decades personally opposed to it. Now he is its avid defender. And frankly, there are admissions in the Democratic Party and in the mainstream media that the Democrats are hoping that abortion will push them over the line to victory. You are looking at a situation in which, honestly, there is no good place, safe place, easy place for the Christian to go in good Christian conscience. But as I said, this gives Donald Trump actually a lot of credibility to say to his political base, look, they came for me, they're going to come for you. And an awful lot of Americans feel that's pretty much the way it is. Not on the same issues, but when it comes to the...
Oh, man, Al, come on. Not on the same issues. Really? If they're gonna come for me, I paid off that adult film star, then they're gonna come for you. I didn't do that. No. If anyone believes that, that's silly. All right. Now, you could talk about yeah, there's antagonism toward Christian ideals in society, 100%. All right, no one's gonna say like there's nothing against any, morality associated with Christians in the Bible specifically. Like, of course there is, but to be like, they'll come for me, they'll come for you, and he seems right. No, how about like you don't pay off adult film stars and you won't get in trouble? Like, don't break the law and you probably won't go to prison. Like, it's not that hard. It's not rocket science, but here we are. We have to have a conversation because these are the hard things the Christians have to deal with in this society. Where else will we turn with a clear conscience? We just can't have one, apparently, according to Al Mohler. We just can't have a clear conscience. Yes, you can. You don't have to vote for the guy. You don't have to vote for Biden either. It's like, what is with this? Like, it's immediate. And like, you talk to someone and they even jump there sometimes where you're just like, yeah, I don't like Donald Trump, or I don't like, Republicans where they're at right now. And they're like, so that means you love Joe Biden? That's not what I said. Like, that means you're voting Democrat? That's not what I said. Just like, maybe there are other options, and there could be viable other options. It's not what the founding fathers wanted, like this two-party system, and everything is either good or evil depending on, like, your perspective from a certain point of view. No, that's not what was intended. But Al Mohler's fine with it.
Disposition of government. Now, how exactly this plays out over the next several weeks and months, well, we don't know that yet. We need to admit that. We're in a fluid situation. But, the big question is being asked across the political spectrum, how does this impact the 2024 presidential election? And the fact that that impact is not yet clear should tell you a whole lot about how millions of Americans have considered the importance of this trial and its verdicts. That can change, we shall see. Crucial weeks, days, and months ahead of us. But as we look at this, we also need to recognize this is about what we know right now. There may be future developments. There will be future developments. We'll take those into account when they happen. At this point, we need to...
This is the caveat that I'm putting at the end of the episode, just in case there's more information that comes out about Donald Trump, and I have to take back all my words. So here is my... Come on. All right. This is what I'm talking about, though. What's up, Christians? Like, why are we doing this? Why do we have to have these conversations? There's nothing that, again, just in the Bible, you don't have anything that says you have to vote for either Republican or Democrat for the main candidate. You can't do a write-in vote. You can't throw away your vote. You can't not vote. Like, no. You know what the Bible does talk about? The Bible talks about us promoting righteousness. That's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to do good works so that others can see our good works and not see how great we are or how much of a moral majority we are, but to see our good works and glorify God the Father. That's the point. That's the point of how we act socially in this world. Like, the reason why we're not just zapped up to heaven is so we could spread the good news. And we have good news. So why are we getting bogged down with all the gross iniquity of the world, to use a King James word? That's just the word that pops to my mind when I think about Donald Trump, I guess. Like, why do we have to go into the muck with all this stuff? Why do we have to get our hands so dirty like Al Mohler thinks we should? We don't have to. Like, it's not going to make you a terrible American if you just don't vote. Like, or you vote for a write-in candidate that you know is going to lose. Like, maybe that's the way change can happen, to where you don't have people who are forcing these awful candidates on you. But, it's all those people will come out and be like, this is just so naive. Oh, Dean, you're so naive up there in Canada, thinking that you could just get away from these things and, just think about like holy things and put your mind on things above, not on things on the earth. Oh, naive, innocent Dean. Why can't we do that? It's what we're called to do. Like, why are we getting so distracted? Christians, we need to stop focusing on politics just altogether. Like, I mean, do vote according to your conscience, promote, if there are righteous people who are running for different offices, vote for those people. Sure. But this whole like Christian nationalism, taking control of North America, saving Western civilization from imminent doom. Like, no. The only thing that we have to like really change things in North America is the gospel. So let's share that. And I don't think promoting someone who does those things with an adult film star and then pays her money to keep her mouth shut so that he can swindle evangelicals into thinking that he's a good man because he held up a Bible upside down that one time. I don't think that's a great person to vote for. And I don't think people will think that. Like they'll look at us promoting and be like, all these evangelicals voted for this guy. It's not about like standing up to Biden and Democrats and like whatever, and just being like, whoa, like we're going to give in to them. No, we're not going to do that necessarily. But we don't have to vote for this guy. Like we don't have to support him. But what do I know? I'm up here. I've got no skin in the game. But neither do Christians. Like, let's be real. Like, here's the deal. Someone's going to win that election. You know what big of a difference it's going to make? Boop. Very little. Like maybe more than zero, but very little. All right. The only thing that has really changed things is getting those justices in as far as like politics, because we live in this age where no one can ever do anything, right? Like you put in like a law that's going to be like, we just want to promote loving puppies. And like there'll be someone who's going to get like be on the other side of that, whether it's a Democrat or Republican, putting that love puppies bill into conversations is just going to turn into, so what, you hate cats? Like that's the world that we live in. So why give up your conscience when you know that isn't going to have a big difference? Like, not really. At least with the age of the justices right now. Like, you don't have to do that again. Like, it worked once. A little bit. Some would debate whether it worked, but oh man, that's my thoughts. And everyone's gonna be mad at me for this episode. Should have probably done this on Chill Stream, but you know what? There wasn't really anything else that was interesting. So that's what we were talking about today. Let's go up a little bit and hear what some of you guys are saying. Let's start here with David. We need to be thinking past the election. What is the unhinged narcissist going to unleash on the country when he knows that he can do anything and not lose support, even from Christians? Solid point. It didn't end so well last time, so I don't know why we'd want that again. But again, I'm north of the border. So Ty and Juliet. American Solidarity Party candidate 2024. It's real and a great way to cast a vote and keep your soul. That's what we want. Cast a vote and keep your soul. Great tagline. Skeletal remains, and this apostate Rushdoony and his disciples laid the theological groundwork, pretty much. Andrew says, I'm telling you, he sees Doug Wilson and the way he talks about these things, and he wants a piece of the popularity. He needs that grift. 100% true as far as like looking out. Al Mohler has changed so much that I can't even, like, it's one thing. Like, I look at all these other guys and everybody's changed, right? Like, because we all change as human beings, but also like the culture changes. We get a little bit more passionate about things that we weren't so passionate about. Like, that's the way the world works. But no one has changed more than Al Mohler as far as like what he's publicly said. Like the guy used to like run in a camp of like Tim Keller and D.A. Carson and like the hard thinkers and like a little bit more tolerable on politics and stuff like that. And now he's really leaning into like the conservative stuff and trying to be the SBC statesman and failing to get the presidency and like It's just, man. And he, like, again, I don't know how much money he makes. Ever since I noticed that, of how everything is funneled through Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, and Southern Baptist Theological Seminary doesn't give it to anybody other than their trustees about how much money they pay to staff. That is the shadiest thing in the world. Like, he basically has a shell company. And I don't know if there's anything really ethical about that. Like, you want to talk about ethics, might need to have a conversation about that. Wendy says, I can vote with a clear conscience. Again, preach it, Dean. We need to be about biblical gospel, not political ones. Agreed. Tony says, you can't be a Christian and vote for Biden is the new mantra. One, yes, you can, because there's nothing in the Bible about Joe Biden. Sorry. You're not going to find him. I know some of you guys are like, but in Revelation, no. It's not about justification by faith alone. Like, nope. But, you know, like, whether a Christian can vote for him and have a clear conscience, that's a debate that can be had. But yeah, I wouldn't be super dogmatic about it, but you know, there are other candidates too. Just saying. Paul, the Al Mohler hush money scandal is going to be, well, the president did it. I mean, there's stuff there, right? I voted for Jesus in a previous presidential election. It's a good call. It's a good call. Always vote for Jesus. Tim says, because Christians think that they still have something to win, even though Jesus biblically basically won and will win despite whatever we do as weak humans. Yeah. Like, I get why the post millennials go at it, right? Like, and they're like all about building a Christian nation. I understand why they do it. I don't get it why amillennialists, which I think Al Mohler is, like why they would. I just don't understand that at all. Mohler can't name any personal moral failing of Biden. He just says he's addled and a robot of the left. Yeah, that was weird, right? Like, I know I start sentences sometimes and don't know where I'm going. And you guys can probably tell that sometimes. You know, like I have a podcast. I am definitely not the best public speaker. I get distracted. I start talking and moving my hands and knowing that I have to come up with 3 things in a sentence of I do this, this, and this in order to create that sentence. But then, you know, I fumble my way through it. And I think Al Mohler does too. It's just, where were you going with that one, bud? You start talking about like the ruthlessness, and then he didn't, like, I don't know if he like lost his pages. I'm pretty sure he writes all this out so he can just get up there and say whatever he has. David says, and we can also vote for the local government elections, which have a much greater impact. Very true. That's not Washington's job to make you better Christians. It's ours. The churches, for sure. Heidi says, I know people who Al Mohler is their daily news source. This is so disappointing. I am sad this is what they're hearing. Yeah, and this is what they're hearing all the time. And why anyone would use Al Mohler to get their news, I have no idea. If you come here for your news, like political news, there's something wrong with you. You should see a doctor. Like, it's not great. Like, we come here to talk about Christian culture, like a little bit about theology. It's in the title, but like mostly about Christian culture. And if you're coming here for other reasons, like, it's not a great place to get like other kinds of news or even my thoughts on other things. I'm not here for all that. Al Mohler shouldn't be listened to when it comes to politics, other than just listening to any Christian. Like, he has no experience. Like, that's always my thing. Like, even with people who have doctorates in other fields, it's like, but you don't have a doctorate in that. Like, you don't have experience in that. So why are you talking about that? Like, no, I won't go into that rabbit trail, but there's a lot that could be said. Let's go to the bottom. I saw Cody. It's kind of a relief sometimes how in Canada, none of the politicians even try to appeal to Christians. They don't even try. There's like, there's one guy. There's one guy who's trying now. Carol says, I was laughing so hard when Trump was guilty and they were crying. A woman was being interviewed. She says, if Trump loses, she says she will die. Wow. A little dramatic. People are pretty dramatic. Someone liked my puppies thing. What was it? I love puppies, but I will not be forced by the government to love any animal, vegetable, or mineral. Solid advice, Stephanie. All right, guys, it is time. Let's see. I got Ethan. Ethan's here. What is this? Why did I click on it? All right. This just in, folks. Per my news source, you shouldn't go to Underdog Theology to get your news. I'll check back in with more news later as the story develops. One of my favorite things on Instagram is the lady who reads everything as like a news announcer, but it's like about her kids. And like just in, I don't know, like Andy ate all his carrots and like goes into like this whole thing. It's the news voice. Why did I start talking about this? All right. You know what? There's a lot going on in our culture, right? It's just hard. You know, we got so much going on, and Christians have to make hard decisions about so many different kinds of things that sometimes, you know, you just forget like that there are so many good Christians who are fighting this battle with us, you know, and they're fighting this culture war. And sometimes you want to pay homage to some of our brothers and sisters who are in the fight, you know, who are doing everything they can to make sure that we as Christians don't lose this war, this great culture war. As I find the button, there it is. That wasn't supposed to be there. All right. Great start. My dearest Abigail, it's been far too long since my last letter. I know. And it's been even longer since I've seen your face. But the Battle of Bikini Bay is at hand, and rainbow flags fly all around us, so the culture war rages on. Much has happened since my last update. Sergeant Mark Driscoll has risen up the ranks to become the highest-ranking general in our conflict after he boldly stood against effeminate strippers hiding behind monster trucks and dirt bikes to invade a church function. I mean, it was the day after the event, and he kind of took it back immediately after. But he did say something, so that makes him godlier than all the other Jezebel spirit tote bag carrying cowards present. Speaking of Jezebel spirits, I read General Driscoll's book, or at least I read the first 2 chapters. And apparently Jezebel spirits are more common than macaroni salad at the church potluck. Everyone seems to have it. Christianity Today has one. All the Democrats got one. And you know Mr. Biden has at least 5 or maybe even 6 Jezebel spirits at any one point. Not my President Joe Biden has prevailed against our friend Donald Jessup Trump with a guilty verdict on 34 counts. So terrible how they're treating that wonderful man. Can you believe the lies they're spreading? They say Trump paid a meteorologist named Stormy Daniels money to keep him quiet. But we know the only storm Donald Trump is concerned with is bringing a hurricane of change to Washington. For real, this time. It's going to be different. It's going to be real different this time. In other news, Colonel John MacArthur has gone at Big Pharma for their indoctrination of our youth. Filled their heads with all kinds of nonsense like disorders and pumping their veins with drugs in order to live in a healthy manner and focus. Who needs focus though, Abigail? I never had any as a youngin', and I turned out fine. A bunch of liberals attacked MacArthur, as they always do, simply for speaking the truth. But I was happy to see Costi Hinn agree with him. You see it? He agrees with him, and he has joined the ranks in our great war. Summer is upon us, which means we must remember to wear our eye protection at the beach. Not the sunglasses, but the horse blinders Deacon William gave all the men at our last men's retreat. And if Pastor has to tell me about seeing your shoulders again, Abigail, I will surely not forget about it upon my arrival home. Oh, and tell little Jessup to hurry up building that Noah's Ark pool float so we can use it when we head down south for 4th of July. Oh, Abigail, the winds of carnage and iniquity blow fierce this time of year. Let's pray our foundation of conservative ideals and patriotic Hobby Lobby decor is strong enough to stand against it. Cordially, Christian, youngest Earth creationist. All right, some hiccups. I'll get better with it. Man, I have fun. I don't know. It's weird to do it live. I thought it'd be less weird. I usually record that stuff when I'm like all alone and no one's around. Like way late at night, giggling to myself doing this stuff. And it's a lot weirder to do it live. I thought it would be the other way around, but it isn't. But you know what? I do really like it. like this looks pretty cool. I like this part. It's like a desk, but it's also kind of like a pulpit. A pulpit. Can I do this? What? Oh, it cuts off. Cuts off over here. But over here, it doesn't. Except for this. Need to figure that stuff out. Anyways, this is kind of fun. Let's keep the chat going in here. let's see what you guys say. Oh, man. Ever did it live up to the hype? I don't know. I don't know, Johnny. You know, I got some things planned. I got some things planned with Abigail. Guys, hound Heather to play Abigail. No, I am not. It is just a song. I like the fireplace, right? And it's like it's working. It's working. It's on right there. Let me. You guys can see all the stuff. I like it. Why is he underwater? Who's underwater? He's not. Is it Dougie? I said it. Slightly reformed is going to be. Happy I said it. He does sound like he's underwater. Was there stuff? What's going on? What's going on? Everyone just kind of being like, this is so dumb. This is so dumb, but it's kind of funny. All right. So much harder to stay in character live though, or not. We'll see. I don't know. I got caught off with some stuff because I got a text on my iPad while I was doing it. And I was like, oh crap. So I'll have to go into airplane mode next time. But, David says, excellent letter. I'm inspired to do angry reactions to pride posts on social media and never even consider actually evangelizing a single LGBT person. Yeah. You know, it's that time of month. It's time to get out the pitchforks and, go stab some rainbows, I guess. And by rainbows, I mean the rainbows, not the people. It does sound like your CPU was chugging with that segment. It might be. I'll have to listen to it back. Wobbly sound a bit there. Oh no. I don't know. All right. Well, that's a show. Maybe I'll do the whole show next time from this. I kind of like this idea of having like this little container for myself. Oh, guys, why do I do this? This is why I do it. Because of you guys. Because you guys are fun. Because I like you guys. And we have a good time. You know, and this is one of those times that we had a good time, I think. Let me know by hitting the like button. 54 people watching. 39 likes is pretty decent, actually. I used to have a dream way deep down in my heart that we would always get to 100 likes for every video. And then I decided to talk about Donald Trump. So I don't think that's going to happen. That's all right. Like maybe someday I'll be able to make some merch off of it and everything will be fine. Cody says, I'd like to see a Canadian character introduced who's just screaming like the entire country is on fire. Maybe. Because we are the truest underdogs. That's right. BTTF Back to the Future, by the way, though writing it out now defeats the purpose of writing it out. Well, now I know, though. Like, was I supposed to know? It's always my thing. Like, people put all these, everything is an acronym. And it's like, what's the context? I don't know. A pastor that doesn't preach because he is old pastor emeritus, probably. Maybe that's what John MacArthur is. Maybe. We'll see. Time will tell. But the real successor for John MacArthur is the friends we made along the way. Maybe my funniest, like my favorite little thing that I ever came up with. All right, enough giggling, enough goofing off. Let's all go vote for Trump. Go call your senators and tell them they better get Trump out of this situation or there'll be heck to pay. And then we'll come back next week and we'll hang out some more. See you next time, guys.